Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is an independent musician and songwriter. As an author, she is the author of the nonfiction book Jewish Palestine, Arab-Palestine, A History of Conflict. Her name is Debra Cohen, and my interview with Debra will follow the teleportation sound. Debra Cohen, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here, Aaron.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, I appreciate you having me on your show, Aaron, and I understand that this podcast is all about writing and literature, books, and all that. And so I am, besides being an indie artist, I'm also an author of a new book this year, which is called Jewish Palestine, Arab-Palestine, A History of Conflict. And it's a nonfiction book, which I made shortly after the October 7th, 2023 massacre in the Negev desert in Israel. I really felt burdened for the continual bombardment of rockets and knife attacks and car jammings. And I just don't understand why the world thinks it's okay to, make a two-state solution with neighbors that want to exterminate all of the Jews. So I thought, a lot of people, especially during the political events we're going through in the United States, they listen to the college students that are blaming Israel for the fate of the Arab Palestinians. And I thought, I discovered some documents that were found in the UK archives revealing the historic, factual series of events that led up to the statehood of Israel and why the Arab Palestinians did not achieve statehood. And it seems popular in the propaganda war that we're in to blame the Jews. Let's blame the Jews. We've always been the scapegoat. Let's blame the Jews. And so the blame is spread like wildfire. So I wanted to reason with people that maybe are on the fence about this situation, or maybe they'd be willing to listen, even if they do hate the Jews. Maybe they'd be willing to listen. And so my book is based on historical facts from these documents that were recently discovered by a scientist named Wagner. And I wrote the book in an easy-to-read outline because I've tried to understand this Israeli-Palestinian conflict myself before I got a hold of this information. And it was too confusing because everybody's saying different things, and it comes down to who's telling the truth. And it's not so easy to find out who's telling the truth in this day and age because freedom of speech has been hijacked to think that gossip is okay, slandering, all these things that never used to be when I was in the JFK era in my life as a child. So I laid this book out in a simple to read outline. It doesn't give you a two-state solution. I trust that the reader, when they read the book, will come up in their own intelligent mind what is a feasible two-state solution, if any. So I hope that people will check out the book. If they want a free Kindle preview, they can go to my website, debracohenmusic.com, and in the navigation bar, just click on about this new book, and it'll take you to a section where you can click on a Kindle preview, or if you would rather have your own PDF for free, you can subscribe for my newsletter as an indie artist, and once you click submit, you will get a PDF of this book for free download. So that's it in a nutshell as far as what my book is about. And I kind of, want to, as I've gotten older, leave a positive legacy of people that want to make the world a better place instead of just leaving it in a mess.
A lot of the world's current geopolitical conflict hotspots can be explained by it being the fault of the British decades or centuries ago. How was the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict before, during, and after the October 7th, 2023 attack against Israel, shaped by the pre-late 1940s British mandates in the Middle East? That included the British mandate for Palestine, the British mandate for Transjordan. I think there might have been some others.
Yeah. Well, that's a loaded question. And all of those questions are answered in my book. So I don't want to give it all away because I would like people to get the book. But basically, we have to start with the understanding that Palestine was British Palestine at that time. And the land had Jewish Palestinians and Arab Palestinians, which is why I named my book Jewish Palestine, Arab Palestine. And a lot of people in this day and age don't even know that. If you, like, for example, were able to get a visual view of Golda Meir's passport, it says she's a Palestinian on her passport. So the thing is, when Britain bowed out of this piece of land in contention here, they tried to make it fair for both the Jews and the Arabs at that time. And the Arabs, the Palestinian refugees, are actually from Jordan because, Jordan, the country of Jordan today is 60% Palestinian. And the leader of this group of refugees from Jordan, some of them might have been from Egypt because their leader, Yasser Arafat, is Egyptian. So they've got this band of people that decided to contest the Jews, even though if you look at a map of the continents and, you can see that Israel is the size of New Jersey and it's surrounded by all of this Arab land. So, there's plenty of land there. If you look, I won't go into a Bible reference, even though the Bible does mention who gets what land there. And it does address the Palestinians, supposedly, but not as Palestinians, because there was no such word Palestinian until till Yasser Arafat concocted this term. Although the term does exist before that time. And again, I'm not going to explain it at length because I want you to read the book. But basically, the thing is, if you read the book, and I'm trying not to give too much away, the refugees, the Palestinians, were awarded by the British the land of Transjordan. And it was a larger piece of land than Israel, which I mentioned is the size of New Jersey. But the thing is, that land in Transjordan used to be Gilead. And again, if you look at the Bible, that land was the Jewish land, that land, plus what is Israel today, a much larger tract of land. So the Jews gave up that land it became known as Transjordan, but the leaders of the Arab Palestinians at that time didn't want that big tract of land. And I only have to ask you who are listening, why do you suppose that is? Why couldn't the Arab Palestinians be happy with a larger tract of land known as Transjordan and instead wanted the land that biblically was called Canaan or Canaan? They wanted the land that is known today as Israel. What's the deal here? I mean, anybody with half a brain would know the plan is to exterminate the Jews, to kill them all. And that's why they have rockets coming over their borders every day for years. The whole world has expected Israel to live like that, with neighbors that are knifing them, running them over with cars, bombing them, killing, setting off bombs that they wear, bomb jackets. Are you kidding me? I mean, like if, for example, I'm in the United States, do you think we'd put up with our neighbors on the border there? I mean, we're putting up with people permeating our southern border down by Texas now, thanks to the border czar. I won't mention her name, but do you think the United States, the Americans, would put up with rockets coming over the border of the United States every day and knifings and car bombs? And do you think we'd put up with that? I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to say, yes, we would. So in your same right mind, how can you ask Israel to make a two-state solution with people that want to murder you?
Okay, I'm going on to my next question here. Are there things that Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and other people alike can learn from your book?
Yes, absolutely. I tried to make the book as fair as I could. It's not an in-depth study of multi-religions. It's basically, as the title says, about Jewish Palestinians and Arab Palestinians. I didn't specifically address the Crusades or what the Christians were doing or any other group, the Druze. But the Christians can learn from it because the Christians ascribe to the Bible that was originally a Hebrew Bible. And the Christians most Christians follow a Jewish Messiah. So it would be in their interest as Christians who follow a Jewish rabbi, Jesus Christ was a Jewish rabbi, to follow the land that he walked, which is Israel today, and to embrace their Jewish brothers and sisters and speak up for the cause of Israel today. It really distresses me that I don't hear a lot of mainstream Christian organizations speaking up for Israel. I hear more people in the United States speaking against Israel and speaking against the Jews. And my hope is that this book would educate people and help them to get alongside Israel for the right reasons, based in the Bible and based on historical facts.
Your book was published in late April of this year. How long did it take you to write the book?
Well, like I said, I started writing it shortly after the October 7th massacre, 2023. And as an indie artist, my pattern or routine has been to try to release a single song every 1 or 2 months, depending on what's going on in my life. But 2024, because I started working on the book, I didn't do any recording until after the book was released. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that single that came out last week called Zion, if I may. But it took me from, let's say, November until it came out in probably in March, because there's been a huge learning curve for me, being my first time as a self-publisher. I didn't know anything about writing a book, seriously, and I've just kind of been going by the seat of my pants. So it probably would have taken me less time if I had a lot of money to pay a publisher. And I was shocked to find out on this book journey that people want $7,000 or $8,000 to market your book. Because, I also found out as a new book author that if you think you're going to make a book and then expect it to sell magically, it's not going to happen. I mean, you got to have a nest egg for marketing. And I don't have that nest egg. I mean, I've spent a little bits of money here and there experimenting with different marketing, contracts of like maybe a week or so. And I'm still looking for the right marketing strategy as a new book and a new author. Because my book is released on Amazon right now, it seems like in all of my searching and researching, there's somewhere in there that the book reviews by the readers are golden. And once Amazon sees that you have 100, that seems to be the magic number, 100 book reviews, then your book starts getting higher in the search and the algorithms are more in your favor. And I'm not quite there yet. I'm in the 60 book reviews right now. So my goal is to get to at least 100, and I'd certainly like it to be a bestseller. And I often wonder, Aaron, I haven't found this out yet. Maybe you know, how can people that are unknown release a bestseller book when they've never been heard of before? How do people say that? How can you say you're a best-selling author when nobody knows who you are yet? Do you know?
That befuddles me, to be honest.
Exactly. I'm like, what do you mean? I never heard of you before. And I mean, I'm not going to post things like that on there, but I guess if you pay for, like this one guy on TikTok, he wanted me to spend like $3,000, which supposedly was a bargain, if I would take his webinar classes on how to market my book. And he promised that because he has a reputable name, he would endorse the book for an extra $2,000 or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that kind of money as an indie artist. I mean, if anybody knows musicians that are trying to make a living off of their craft, if you listen to my new song that I want to talk about, Zion, or Zion in English, it takes 5,000 streams on Spotify for an artist to get enough money to buy a T-shirt. So, with less than 100 followers right now on Spotify, you can tell I'm not self-sufficient or self-supporting right now. If I didn't have my wonderful husband with me, I wouldn't be able to live this dream as an artist.
I have one more question that's related to your book, and then I will get to your music works, including Zion. My last question regarding your book. Now, it is self-published. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Did you have any trouble or issues with getting your book self-published? And also, did you have any problems with the people people who never read the book and leaving 1-star reviews and leaving an anti-Semitic comment in the reviews or something that would be obviously bigoted?
Oh, yes. Yes to both of those questions, and let me expound on it. That's the hard thing about being Jewish and trying to market a book as an unknown author or a new author is the whole thing, which I mentioned. It's important to get those book reviews, whether, you find my book on Amazon or BookBub or Goodreads or Audible, or even as an artist on Spotify, it's all, Apple Music, wherever you find the music, it's all about reviews. And I had no idea. I mean, I had a slight idea as a musician, even though it's like begging my followers to write a review. They just don't do it. I mean, I had to sit my husband down and watch over him and have him type something up, because it's just not a priority for people. They don't realize it. So as far as publishing the book, I relied heavily on KDP publishing with Amazon, KDP, which is where I self-published my book. And they do have a very good system of laying out the steps for a newbie like me, as far as this is what you got to do first, this is what you could do second, and trying to learn the technology of all of this, because it's an online experience. And, you know, trying to get support is another thing. You know, I would say the support for new authors online is minimal. So you end up, spending gobs of time going to YouTube or listening to your podcast and trying to figure out if somebody will answer a question that you don't know the answer to. And everybody, there's plenty of people out there that will help you if you want to spend a lot of money. But for somebody like me, a self-publisher on a piggy bank budget, I had to, try to learn the ropes, and I'm still trying to learn them myself. So it's been a very, it seems like a very long road, but as you mentioned, it was released in April. So that's not, I guess, not too long ago, but it really took a chunk of time out of my recording music. And I haven't, like I said, haven't been able to have the time to write any music or record because I've been glued to this book and now the marketing. So it's really, and another thing is, once you do release a book, you'll get bombarded with all of these people on social media that promise you the moon, for X amount of dollars. We can get your book, in this magazine and that. And there's so many scams out there. You have to really do your homework. And if somebody offers you that kind of marketing, you need to find out their credentials, see where else they published, read about them so you don't get sucked in, So that's a challenge. I hope that answers your first question. And the second question is, yes, I do deal with haters that give me one review, 1-star reviews, that you say comments that I can tell they haven't even read the book. They're just whacking me with one star because I'm Jewish. I can't prove it, but I would say that that becomes a target. And it's unfortunately on Amazon that they won't remove those reviews, the negative reviews, because they still consider it a review, whether it's good or not. So all the more reason I'm trying to solicit good reviews from people that appreciate what I'm doing without attracting the haters. And if anybody's been in a chat room, in a controversial topic, the trolls are plentiful. So it's a daily battle for sure.
As a singer and a songwriter, actually, I'm going to ask that question next. The question I'm going to ask you here right now, tell us about your recent song, Zion. What genre is it, and what is it about?
Thank you, Aaron, for asking about that. I released, after I finished the book, I started watching the news in Israel. I mean, not to the extent that I'm watching it now, but I want to stay informed on what's really going on because there's so much propaganda out there. And, during these boycotts and protests, the college students, a lot of them in the States and all over the world, that have taken the word Zion, which is mentioned in the Holy Bible 152 times. In the Bible, Zion is a synonym for Jerusalem, and a lot of people don't even know this. So you've got these college students that are calling, let's say me, a Zionist with a scowling face as if it's something bad. And I thought, it's catching on like fire. People are calling Jews Zionists, and they've equated the term with occupier and colonizer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Where are they learning this stuff? I mean, I used to be a public school teacher, and it was shocking once certain teachers started perverting the definition of racism. Then all of a sudden the kids, these are high school kids, it gets into their minds and they twist it, and they start calling the teachers racist if the kids don't like the professors and the teachers. And I'm like, they're getting this stuff from a lot of the professors in college, calling Jews in Israel occupiers and genociders. I'm like, it's the exact opposite. A Zion, and of course, there are Jews that don't like Zionists either, if you can wrap your head around that one. But according to the Holy Bible, a Zionist is somebody that believes that Israel has the right to exist as a statehood. And in the Bible, if you actually are learned in what the Jews call the Torah, or the Christians call the Old Testament, or actually the Muslims call the Quran, you will see that God gave this land to the Jews, and that God, the creator of the universe, put his holy name, if you can even understand what that means, on the city of Zion. That's where the Messiah that we're all waiting for. Well, I mean, some of us think this person is going to be the Messiah. I'm not going to argue about who the Messiah is. Nobody knows for sure. It's just when the Messiah comes, he or she is coming to Zion. And so I took these words from the Bible for my song Zion, inspired by the prophet Isaiah, because Isaiah, the prophet, is the one who talks about Zion. And I start out my lyrics as a teaching tool for people to reach more people if they hear the song Zion and understand what it's about. The first verse explains it in my lyrics, goes like this. Have you heard of Zion, where some still believe in God's kingdom? His holy name is placed there in the Bible, in the heart of Jerusalem. So I'm trying to tell people that a Zionist is not the right definition of occupier. That's a man-made or woman-made perverted truth that has nothing to do with the Bible. So actually, these people that hate Zionists, according to their own thinking, that are occupiers, they actually have a problem with God. You know, they surely do, because the author of the Bible is our creator. So I just want to help people that have no clue because they've never read their Bible, or they believe the lies their professor are teaching, or they believe the propaganda, or they just have hate in their hearts that, you know, in the beginning, God had a plan. And yes, these Palestinians, the Arabs that are protesting, actually had a country given to them by the Creator called Transjordan. And so if you don't like the land that was offered to you, it's not the Jews' fault. It's not Israel's fault. It's your fault for being ignorant.
As a singer, what genres do you sing in? And as a songwriter, what genres do you write music in?
Yeah, good questions, Aaron. You know, as a singer, I've been singing since I was 22. And at that time, I was in an 80s new wave rock band opening up for Joan Jett. So I wasn't always such a spiritual person. I wasn't spiritual at all. I was a rock and roll woman and got into the party lifestyle in Boston, had a hell of a time, literally. So, but you can still hear my CD 80s by Debra Cohen and hear the song that was on the radio at that time called Boston Nights. And, you know, we were like tracking with Joan Jett as far as notoriety goes, but then I got too heavy into the drug scene and almost died of a drug overdose, but I called out to the God that I never knew and asked him if he'd let me live because I didn't want to die yet. If you let me live, I'll serve you. And so he let me live. I didn't know anything about God, so I started exploring the Bible and learning more about Israel and dabbled in Islam and dabbled in Christianity and dabbled in the Baha'i faith. And I say all that to let you know that it affected and influenced my genre. So I started out as a singer of new wave music and then segued into spirituality under the guise of Christianity. and wrote a lot of Christian rock songs in the 90s. And then decided to follow the Torah that Jesus Christ taught, even though most Christians say that Jesus canceled out the Torah, which, why would somebody teach from a book and then say, okay, by the way, you don't have to follow this book because I made it defunct? Seriously? That doesn't make any sense at all. And I used to believe that, so I'm just telling you, it's not true. But you got to find out for yourself. Nobody can cram religion down your throat. So from there, I started writing songs in Hebrew, following Judaism. And my songwriting is again, in the 80s, my songwriting was very much from my mind. And I wrote songs based on who I was listening to at that time, like the Cars, Chrissie Hynde, the Pretenders, and whoever else was out there. I can't remember when. It was a long time ago. But then when I gave my life to God and started peeling off the doctrines of men, I started dreaming music. And I never dreamed a song in my life until I started dedicating my life to exploring the Bible. And the first song I dreamed was in 95 in Nashville. And it woke me up out of a sound sleep. I grabbed my guitar and started writing words to this music I heard. And it's called My Tainted Heart. So that became my Christian kind of genre during the 90s. But as I continued to dream music, it started to change to the Psalms and embracing both Christianity and Judaism. And now my music is in Hebrew and English. I still write rock songs because the rock will always be in me, but it's more Hebrew focused and exploring the Tanakh and the Talmud and Hasidism and the spiritual things that if Christians are listening, they would say, what is that stuff? Well, Shaul, Apostle Paul, said, I wish that you would all know the mysteries. And so the mysteries I believe he's referring to are in Tzfat, where the rabbis there explore into the higher level. They call it the Sod thinking and understanding and revelation of the Word of God. So my genre is always changing depending on how much time I spend in prayer seeking the Holy One.
I have one final question, as I only have about 3 or 4 minutes left in this interview. Okay. As a singer back in the 1980s, you once opened for Joan Jett. What was that experience like?
I love rock and roll, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Oh yeah, those were the days. I regret taking drugs because I really could have gone someplace as far as my band goes, but it was party time galore in Boston in the 80s, living on Mass Ave across from the Berklee School of Music. And, the band, it was great band members. We had, there was a rhythm guitarist, MPC, me on vocals and guitar, and then a bass player and a drummer. And great roadies. It was a good time. We toured New England, and but that lifestyle, I didn't have the discipline. I have to give my hat off to Joan Jett because she's still out there gigging. A lot of these bands that I used to listen to, if they haven't died, they're still going. I'm like, kudos to you. Robert Plant is my favorite singer of Led Zeppelin, and he's still going, but his genre has taken a spin with Alison Krauss, and they're singing like, I think it's maybe Christian music, Christian bluegrass. So, kudos to him. But I just had a blast singing that music, but it came to a dead end when I overdosed. So I decided to try to live like I'm expected to live and get married and live happily ever after on a piece of land on a mountain in New Hampshire, but that also didn't work out. But that's for another story.
Debra, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an interesting guest.
Thank you, Erin. I enjoyed it very much, and I hope your listeners would at least, if they're not interested in the book, but I hope that you are. Again, the website is Debra, Debra Cohen, Cohen music.com. But please check out my new song, Zion. You can find it, just do a Google search and look for Zion by Debra Cohen and add it to your playlist.
Although I disagree with some of Debra's opinions, it was wonderful to interview her, and she was an interesting guest. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding you all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.